August 19th. Welcome to the Philly Pod Fantasy Football Special. Your host, Dave and Mike, along here for another half an hour. Ready to give you guys some great fantasy football information. Mike, how you doing, dude?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself, Dave?
I'm doing pretty well. You feel pretty rested, ready to go here?
Yeah, I'm ready to go. How about you?
I'm ready to go. Funny story, real quick. I've been ready to go really since last night here for our fantasy football special. For our listeners out there, just so you guys know, we're not just winging this off of flying by the seat of our pants. We're actually putting a lot of work and preparation into this. And one of the things that we've done to prepare, really, my co-host right here, Mike, took it upon himself. I got a text message last night at 5:30 saying, "Yo, man, we should probably meet up and talk about what we're going to discuss on the show before we go out and wing it." I said, "Mike, that's a great idea. What time are you thinking?" He goes, "How about we meet at 5:30? My house, we can plan and we'll discuss." I responded, "All right, I'll be there at 5:30. Well, 5:30 comes around. I knock on the door. No answer. I call the phone about 3-4 times. No answer. Drop him a text message. No answer. And what do you know was really going on? Yes, that's right. That is right. The man who plans the meeting for us to meet up is asleep at the wheel. Zonked out on the couch. Plans our production meeting, sleeping on the couch. Mike, what you got to say for yourself, dude?
Oh, I am sincerely sorry. I had work last night. I was tired. I was up all day doing my fantasy stuff. Oh, God, I have no excuse.
Jeez, we're 2 for 2 already here, man. I'll tell you got one of these last time. All right, but in any event, just so you guys know, we are working hard to bring you guys one of us is working hard to bring you guys a quality podcast show. Oh, I'm only kidding, dude. Oh, you got something? Okay.
Yeah, I set up the Facebook page.
You did? Yeah, that's true.
I've been posting the first podcast nonstop on both my personal Facebook page and, of course, the Philly podcast page, trying to get this thing up and running smoothly.
All right, so there was, he's not all, he's not just zonked out on the couch. He's doing work. It's just maybe the planning meetings part we need to work on.
Yeah.
But anyway, we have a great show lined up here for you guys. I know there was just Eagles football last night, but we're going to save that for Monday when we record coming up. There were a lot of good things.
Yeah.
But like we talked about, this is our fantasy football special for our listeners. And one of the things that we just want to put out here from the start, what we're going to be talking about is going to apply primarily to teams that are 10 to 12 leagues that are 10 to 12 teams in size. All right? But we just want to make that clear going forward, just so you guys don't misinterpret anything. But one of the things that we're going to hit on here to start is, if you're familiar with fantasy football drafting, you realize that there are many different strategies that come with fantasy football. Maybe it might be taking a quarterback in the first round or going running back first. But the thing that I've done consistently this year in all of my drafts as compared to previous years, I've been taking wide receivers with my first 2 picks. And in contrast, traditionally to what's done in fantasy football, is that it's always seen that running backs go in the early rounds with the early picks. But I've actually gone the complete opposite. I'm a full believer in the strategy that you have to take wide receivers with your first 2 picks. And I've even done some where I've taken them with my first 3 picks in my drafts. It's just the way the league is going with the rule changes and how you can't touch the quarterback and you can't hit the receivers anymore, basically how you can't play defense anymore. Things just really, really seem to favor the receivers.
I would agree. You think about it, you can't touch quarterbacks, you can't touch receivers. You get that 5-yard area, but that's about it. So you really do have, a lot of receivers out there that you could choose from when you're drafting.
Yeah, and to go with that, man, I mean, we've got some stats here for you, just to show that we're not just blowing smoke here. So last year in the 2015-7, and the 2015, see, I already had my head on my stat.
Yeah.
In the 2015 season, did you know there were only 7 running backs to rush for over 1,000 yards last year? Just 7.
That's mind-blowing.
Yeah, and when you look at that even further, that's down from 17 running backs to go over 1,000 yards in 2010. Just 7. And to put it even more perspective, like Darren McFadden, of all people, was 4th in the league in rushing yards last year.
Again, mind-blowing.
Right. Yeah, exactly. To go on that as well, because, we picked up... if you guys catch the drift of this show, this is kind of where we're going with this. Hint, hint. In comparison to 7 running backs over 1,000 yards last year, there were 26 wide receivers or tight ends over 1,000 receiving yards. 7 running backs, 26 wide receivers or tight ends. So clearly, there's a phenomenon going in the league, and it's no surprise. The running backs are being, the workhorse running backs are being phased out.
It's all about longevity now. It's not about giving these guys. It's not like back in the day when you had Jerome Bettis running for 300 times. Mm-hmm. It's all about preserving the careers and making sure you get the most out of your running backs while you still can.
Oh, absolutely. It definitely is, and I think teams are aware of that. And here's another one. Here's another one I was able to find. So last year, all right, no running back cracked 1,500 yards. Adrian Peterson was he was the rushing champ last year, rushed for 1,484 yards. It marked the first time that no running back ran for over 1,500 yards since 2007. And you have to go all the way back, I think, to 1993, I think, to even see the last one before that. So clearly, there's been a major shift in football here going on, and it's evolved to a passing league.
Yeah, you could definitely say that the scale has shifted from the running game being the main go-to to a more pass-friendly league.
Definitely, it definitely is. And one of the things that you hit on actually is that teams seem to be aware of running backs reaching that 30-year mark or 30-year-old mark.
Yeah.
And what we think is part of the thing going on here, the coaches are aware of that, and you're starting to see, well, you mentioned it, not as many guys going with the workhorse running back.
Yeah.
So I think coaches and general managers are aware of this. And so they're trying to preserve these guys' careers. Okay, limit their carries, keep them around longer. And I think the result is you're seeing running backs that how rare is it when you see it? It just feels rare when you see a running back get 300 carries.
Yeah.
DeMarco Murray 2 years ago, 392 carries. We were like, holy cow.
Yeah.
You'd have to go back a little while to see a running back who got worked like that, Yeah,
and I think that it just, to go off what you were saying, it's, you get over 30, you're not going to be as physically, you don't have that stamina that you used to as when you were entering the league. So obviously that does indeed play a role, and to split up the carries evenly, or at least keep it within reason, definitely would help preserve a running back's career.
Sure. So you can absolutely see the logic of it. I mean, it totally makes sense. It just kills fantasy football to see that.
Yeah.
I've lost a few bucks on stuff like that, man.
No. Yeah. You got Adrian Peterson running all around a 49ers defense, for example, and the next thing you know, he's pulled out. It's like I needed 2 more points just to win a fantasy game, and
frustrated. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's like, why?
The most frustrating thing, the running backs are frustrating. So I think it's just the way the league's going, And I still see it. You've seen it too in your mocks. Like, guys are still taking running backs in the first round, and I can't really argue taking Adrian Peterson or Todd Gurley or Ezekiel Elliott. It just doesn't seem. It just doesn't feel like it's the way to go anymore.
No.
But it's hard to get used to that. You're so used to taking running back first.
I mean, again, But we're out of that day and age where it's the running back. You think about the statistics of a quarterback too. You're seeing 450.
That's routine.
4,000
yards is routine.
Yeah, it's no longer run the ball first, pass second. It's pass
That's the crazy
first.
thing. 15 years ago, you got to 4,000 yards as a quarterback. It was, hey, that's really something.
Yeah, that's an MVP type season.
Yeah, now today it's I threw like, Eli threw for 4,000 yards. So what?
Yeah,
I mean, it's crazy how that's evolved.
Tom Brady passed for 5,000 yards.
Yeah, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Big Ben made a run that a couple years ago. It's just interesting to see how fantasy football has evolved, even really in the last 5 years.
It's all about trends. Football is a game of trends, and if you can't,
it is.
And you'll find that rare trend person that doesn't follow the trend, but mainly it's all about the trends. And if you don't follow the trends, you're in a bad place.
Yeah, no, for sure. You're behind the 8 ball, so you definitely got to stay ahead of the game. That's what we're going to try to do here, and that's exactly why we're doing this show. Other than the fact to settle the dispute once and for all that I am clearly a better fantasy football player than Mike. But we're going to get into that a little bit later. In any event, we want to talk about the first thing we want to hit on are our thoughts on the latest fantasy football rankings. So what we went and did, we printed out the latest cheat sheet from ESPN.com. And we're just going to hit on our thoughts. I mean, really, there's not much, right? Like, there's not really much we disagree with here.
Yeah.
There's just a few small things.
Minor details.
Yeah, minor details that we just want to talk about. Maybe we disagree with, or maybe, someone's ranked too high or too low. So we're going to start in the quarterback section here. By the way, we do have our Dave and Mike sleepers and busts specials coming up in probably about 10 minutes here. So you want to stick around for that as well. Guaranteed. You can lock them in. Lead pipe. Well, I don't think we can use lead pipe locks, but you can lock these guys in for sleepers and busts. But in any event, we're going to go back to the rankings here. Okay. The first thing that stood out to me when I looked at, and it was with the quarterbacks, the top 11 I really don't have much problems with, or really any problem with. I'll read through them here really quick. 1 was Cam Newton, 2 Rodgers, 3 Russell Wilson, 4 Andrew Luck, Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger, Carson Palmer, Brady, Eli Manning, Blake Bortles, kind of questionable, but he did have a good year last season. Philip Rivers, but number 12 for me, Tyrod Taylor kind of stands out. I don't really think he's the 12th best fantasy quarterback right now, because when I look at that, I look at guys who I feel comfortable as being a starter on my team. You figure, 12 teams, so the top 12 quarterbacks should be starters. And I know he had a good season last year, but there's just a couple of things that I don't like. Number one, he's had a horrible offseason. He's been fine off the field, but on the field, he's not looked good. Reports from Buffalo are that he's really, really struggled up there. So I don't like that. I don't place a whole lot of value in somebody who has really one breakout season and has done nothing before then. So I'm a little hesitant. Like, guys I have ranked ahead of him, I have Tony Romo, Derek Carr. I even have Kirk Cousins ranked ahead of Tyrod Taylor. And it's just for the fact that he struggled in the offseason, and I'm just not a believer after 1 year a guy's all of a sudden a stud.
Yeah, it's like the one, it's like a running back that has a breakout season or
exactly, yeah,
or a wide receiver. You have to follow that up before you can be considered legitimate in the NFL.
Right. So you agree? You also think he's ranked a little too high? I mean, we're nitpicking here. I would probably have him ranked, maybe 14 or 15. I just don't know that I consider him a starter.
Yeah, I would definitely take Tony Romo before I took Tyrod Taylor. I mean, you think about all the weapons that Tony Romo has, and he's got one of the best offensive lines in the league, so he's well protected. You got weapons.
Is injury at all a concern for you for Tony Romo?
Sort of. I would be concerned only because he's definitely getting up there in age. He's been in the league for about, 15, 16 years now? Or no,
I don't think quite that long.
10?
Nah, it's
10?
been, well, we figure he came in 2006, so 10, 11 years.
Yeah.
But he's got a lot of wear and tear, especially with those collarbone injuries.
Yeah, that would definitely be a concern. Yeah, maybe I'd put Derek Carr over him only because he's an up-and-coming quarterback. But,
yeah, I'd agree with that.
I would definitely take Tony Romo.
No, I agree.
Before Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah, that was really all that stood out to me on quarterbacks. Anything else really?
I think you covered everything, dude.
Yeah, I think quarterbacks were good there. Running back though, when I look at their top five, and you can pull this cheat sheet up. Their top five are AP, Todd Gurley, Ezekiel Elliott, David Johnson, and the one that is mind-boggling to me is Devonta Freeman. They have ranked as the number 5 fantasy running back, and I think that's way too high for him. The mock drafts I've been doing, he's consistently gone at the back end of the second round, even early third round, and I just think this one's so obvious to see. They drafted a guy in the second round last year, Tevin Coleman, who was starting running back last year against the Eagles until he left the game with a concussion, and then Devonta Freeman went off and did what he did. But they've already come out. So my point is, they invested a lot in Tevin Coleman. And the coaching staff has already come out this year and said he is going to be more involved in the offense this year, be it in the running game and in the receiving game, which is the big area where Devonta Freeman really excels. So Devonta Freeman at 5, I mean, maybe I could see it in a PPR league, but I just think he's way, way, way overranked here at number 5.
Yeah, I would agree. Again, like you said earlier, one breakout season, you gotta show some consistency before you really get that sort of ranking.
Yeah. The other one we talked about. Well, I don't want to say that he's overranked. We're just a little worried about him is Lamar Miller. They have him ranked at number 7. Bill O'Brien and the Texans, they invested a lot in him. But if he was, obviously they brought him in there to be the workhorse back. But the question I keep asking, Mike, is if he was this good, why'd the Dolphins let him go? And essentially replace him with 30-year-old Arian Foster coming off an Achilles injury.
Yeah, especially, given the fact that 30 years old, he's got a lot of tread on the tires. That doesn't make sense.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying Lamar. I think Lamar Miller will have a good season, but I'm just not. I'm not sure. I've been avoiding him. I haven't been taking him just because I'm not entirely sure, and just for those reasons. Yeah.
One guy I have a beef with.
You said. Oh, shoot, I lost my notes here.
Carlos Hyde. He's ranked number 15.
You're going out to San Francisco,
yes.
Mr. Chip Kelly.
Yes.
All right, let's hear this.
Carlos Hyde, he is more of a downhill runner. Chip Kelly runs the spread option offense. He's known for it.
I want winners.
Yes. Yes. And the fact that he's more of a power back, I just think of DeMarco Murray 2.0 over there in San Francisco.
Yes, that's interesting. I actually look at him. He's a little more nimble, I think, than DeMarco. I think he actually fits Chip's system a little bit better than what DeMarco Murray did, because if you watched him the other night in Tennessee, last week's preseason game, he looked really good. But the big question on him is going to be whether or not he can stay healthy.
Yeah, that is another issue.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy I have been targeting because I've been able to get him in the 4th and even 5th round sometimes. It's just going to be whether or not he can stay on the field. But I didn't take that big a deal with Carlos Hyde. Where do they have him here?
15.
15. Yeah, Prince so small. The other person who I was really... I can't understand why a lot of sites have him this high is Jeremy Langford for the Chicago Bears, number 22. I realized he had a really, really... Well, I shouldn't even say that. He did well in filling in for Matt Forte, but he didn't even have a 100-yard rushing game last year.
That's big in fantasy football.
Yeah, so he had some good fill-in weeks, but that's going to be a full-time committee. They've got big-time... they got Kareem DeCarry there. Jaquiz Rogers are looking to get involved in the receiving game. They drafted Jordan Howard in the 3rd round this year. So I don't really know what's going to happen out there in Chicago, and I think him at number 22 is that's way, way, way too high for a committee back. And the only other guy that I think is a little underranked, I would say, is Rashad Jennings at 31. Number 31. I realize he's old. He is 31 years old. But he's got young legs. He's only had 749 carries his entire career. And to put that in perspective for you, LaDainian Tomlinson had 711 carries his first 2 seasons in the league. So, Rashad Jennings is kind of like a Fred Jackson, where he is a little older, but he's got young legs.
Yeah, and that is interesting because, again, we talked about it earlier. Coaches are looking to preserve their running backs. This guy is preserved, yet he's ranked lower than some of these other running backs that probably do have a little more mileage on them.
Yeah, I mean, Ben, and I know the big concern is that's going to be a committee, but Ben McAdoo has come out and said since he took over the job, basically, that Rashad Jennings is going to be our workhorse every down back. So again, he's another guy. He's had injury problems. I hate it's that big word. If he stays healthy, I think a sneaky good season for Rashad Jennings. But those are the only issues I really had at running back. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think we're both good there. Then we're going to move on to the wide receiver rankings here. Where's my sheet? Yeah, the only one. Well, do you want to start off, or you want me to kick off?
You can start off.
Okay. Yeah, the one that stands out to me is Allen Robinson of the Jacksonville Jaguars. They've got him ranked number 7, ahead of Jordy Nelson, Brandon Marshall, Alshon Jeffrey, Mike Evans, Brandon Cooks, and Sammy Watkins. I'm not too high on Allen Robinson. I think he's a great talent. I think he's a very, very talented wide receiver. And, he is. I'm not going to say he's not, but there are reasons why I don't think he's going to reproduce last year's 1,400 plus yards and 14 touchdowns. Mainly it's because the Jaguars seem to be moving away from what they did last year, and that was throw the football a lot. Okay, they went out, they signed Chris Ivory in the offseason. They were committed to using both T.J. Yeldon and Chris Ivory in the backfield. And I'm not sold on Blake Bortles. Okay, I know he had 30-plus touchdowns last year, but his completion percentage was under 60%. And that's because, and to me, whenever I see a guy under 60%, it's a bit of a red flag to me because the way the league, the way the rules set up today, the way the league is set up. I mean, this is the easiest it's ever been to play quarterback in the National Football League. So for me, if you can't get to that 60% completion mark, it's a little concerning for me. But I think Allen Robinson will have a good season. I just think for where he's going, he's being drafted early in the second round. I think he's going to be a bit of a letdown. Plus, I've got Brandon Cooks, Mike Evans, Alshon Jeffrey, and Jordy Nelson all ranked above him too. So that was one that really stood out to me.
Yeah, I would agree. There are definitely some better names that deserve to be at that 7 slot, like Alshon Jeffrey, Mike Evans, and Jordy Nelson. But you mentioned Blake Bortles and how he threw on for 59%.
57 even.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not horrible, but it's.
You think of today's game and how they're protecting the quarterback more than they ever have. You're not playing in the 70s, so it's become a passing game. I mean,
it is, yeah.
Yeah. There's really no excuse.
Nah, so that's But hey, we wish him all the luck in the world.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He won't be on my fantasy team.
Yeah.
So the other one for me, I think Doug Baldwin's too high at number 20. He had a good season last year. He had 13 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards. But I'm confused what Seattle really is trying to do there. I don't expect them to throw the ball as much because they're going to have Thomas Rawls healthy. They're going to have Christine Michael get in the backfield. I think they want to get back to more of that smash mouth style of football as opposed to what we saw last year out of them. And in my experience, Doug Baldwin had never had a double-digit touchdown season before, and all of a sudden he puts up 13 touchdowns. It's always been my experience when the guy has been around in the league for a while and all of a sudden has a breakout like this, it's just inevitable that he goes backwards. So, I think, I just don't see Doug Baldwin having another good season. I actually think Tyler Lockett there in Seattle has a chance to have a better season. than Doug Baldwin, just because I think there's more upside. And Baldwin, you know what you're getting, basically. The only other one that I had, there were two. Well, and they're actually both in Detroit. I'm not sure about Golden Tate at 25. He's had a rough training camp. He's been dropping balls, not been on the same page with Matthew Stafford. A little surprising because this is going to be his third year in Detroit. But he's been overtaken by Marvin Jones as the number one wide receiver in Detroit. And Marvin Jones is going at number 38. In my drafts, I've been able to steal Marvin Jones sometimes in the 9th or 10th round to be my number 4 wide receiver, which is great value for the guy who's going into the season as the number 1 wide receiver in Detroit. So I think Marvin Jones is a little bit better buy at number 38 than Golden Tate at number 25.
It is crazy because now that you've got Megatron out of the picture, the focus is going to be on those other wide receivers in Detroit, and then to bring up Matthew Stafford, who doesn't have that big target anymore. That'll play a factor for sure.
I mean, and Matthew Stafford, by the way, they've got him ranked at number 17. He's way down. I've been able to snag him as my backup quarterback in the 13th round.
That's a solid backup.
Yeah, I think we're going to find out what Matthew Stafford's really all about this year, and this is unrelated to fantasy. We're going to find out whether or not he really is going to be a kind of quarterback that can win you a Super Bowl. Because the big knock on him is that he's always had Calvin Johnson around, and
now he's gone.
Yeah, now no Megatron, so we're going to see if he really has what it takes to get it done. You have anything different than wide receiver there? Anything else that stood out? No? Okay. All right, so that means we're going to the tight end rankings. I don't really have anything standing out here at tight end, and I think's out of line or that I really disagree with. I look at these. I think tight end list is pretty good.
Yeah, I think tight end is one of those areas that unless you have Rob Gronkowski, you're looking just to make sure they get you the points that you need, and that's about it.
Yeah, I agree. Kickers and defense. We're not going to get into kickers and defense because here's the thing, and this comes back to how we feel. I'm laughing because I see this all the time in drafts where I see guys reach in like the 9th, 10th round to get a great defense. Same with kickers sometimes. You don't know year to year what defense is going to produce fantasy. It's too unpredictable. There are too many things that can happen. You don't know who's going to recover all the fumbles. You don't know who's going to get takeaways. You don't know who's going to get blocked kicks for touchdowns, receiving or interceptions for touchdowns, punt return. You just don't know. And same with kickers. They're too much of a wild card.
It's playing roulette, like playing roulette.
Yeah, you don't know exactly what's going to happen. It's a good analogy, but so that's why we're not going to dive into that. A lot of people do believe in taking defenses and kickers that high, but we do not. In any event, we are now going to move on to our sleepers and busts section. And listen, we do know our stuff. We've won, about 5 leagues between the two of us?
Yeah.
Yeah, in our fantasy days. So, again, we're not blowing smoke at you.
Nope.
We do know what we're talking about. So these sleepers, these busts, you can go ahead and you can lock them in. All right, so Mike, we're going to start with the quarterbacks here. You want me to bat lead off, or you want to go? How do you want to do?
I'll lead off.
All right, go ahead, man. All right, sleepers.
My first sleeper, Robert Griffin III.
Oh, what? RG3? Oh, all right, I'll hear this out, then I'll debate you afterward. Let's hear it.
I believe that with a new start in Cleveland, you've got a core of young guys looking to do what they've got to do. He's got no pressure on him, really. Given a chance to actually play for a team that wants him as opposed to not wanting him. I think the only question mark that for me in terms of him is if he could stay healthy or not. Because that has been a big-time issue in the past. Will he be able to be mobile? Will he be able to be mobile against the better defenses? I think those are the only 2 question marks I have about him, but I think he's going to be a solid sleeper this year.
Did you see him his last couple years in Washington? I mean, dude, I just don't see it. He looked like a guy who was just done, and even in the preseason last year. I just don't think. I don't know. Maybe the change in environment will work. But the big thing for him, I mean, you hit on his mobility. All right, when he tore up his leg again, his mobility was done.
Yeah.
He couldn't move anymore. And that's what made him so unique and so special in the Shanahan system, is that he was able to roll out, he could do bootlegs, he could throw on the run. And now it seems like they have to keep him contained in the pocket, and he's not that accurate from the pocket.
But again, that's why I put down. What if the question mark is, can he stay healthy or not?
Well, so that's where we disagree. I'm not even sure he can contribute if he does stay healthy. But that's a good one, man. That's a good sleeper. That's a good sleeper there. I like that. For me, I actually have two sleepers at quarterbacks. I'm going with last year's rookie quarterback draft class. I'm going with Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota are two of my sleeper quarterbacks. Jameis Winston, he threw for 4,000 yards and 20-plus touchdowns, 22 touchdowns last year. So with Mike Evans, Vixen Jackson, Doug Martin there, Dougie Hamster in the backfield, I think he has a good chance to post even better numbers this year. And Marcus Mariota last year was on pace for 3,700 yards, 25 passing touchdowns, almost 350 rushing yards, and 3 rushing touchdowns. So he's on pace to put up 28 touchdowns as a rookie, so that's pretty good. So I think both those guys have a chance to really step forward and progress. I would put Derek Carr as a sleeper, but the guy threw for 30-plus touchdowns last year, and I think he's clearly on the upswing, so I don't have him there. All right, your bust. Who you got for a bust?
1 second.
All right, well, while you're looking for that, my bust, I got Blake Bortles. Not sold on him. I'm not sold on that Jacksonville offense. And the other guy I'm worried about Carson Palmer. And it has nothing to do with statistics or anything. It's just a gut feeling I have watching him in that playoff game against the Panthers. It's just a gut feeling I have that he's going to have a down season.
You read my mind, dude.
Really?
I had him as one of my busts as well. It's just the injuries. Will he be able to stay healthy? He and Fitzgerald just got new contracts there until the 2017 season, and it's just a question of his health. Can he stay healthy, and can he, continue to just keep producing in Arizona?
I got RG3 stats for you here. 2013, 3,200 passing yards, 16 passing touchdowns, 12 interceptions. 2014, 1,694 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 6 INTs. RG3, a sleeper? I don't see it. I just had to go and get a little shot at you there, man. All in good fun. But anyway, so yeah, it sounds like it sounds like you have Carson. I have him as a question, maybe a possible bust. You have him down for sure. Okay. All right, running back sleepers. I'll start. My big sleeper, I love Melvin Gordon this year. I know he struggled as a rookie out in San Diego last year, but I've been able to get him sometimes in the 6th, 7th rounds. Even in the 8th, he slips sometimes. He's more comfortable this year. His knee's fixed. I mean, his knee's good to go. I'm not worried about the microfracture surgery because he looked great the other night. And he just seems to understand the offense a little bit better this year. And Ken Wisenhunt's a good offensive coordinator, and he's back there now. And I think he's going to find a better way to incorporate him in the offense. And he just looks more comfortable. I know it was only one game, small sample size, but all the reports have been great. I love Melvin Gordon, getting him rounds 5 through 7 in that range.
For me, Matt Jones. The guy's he's the starter. Alfred Morris is now in Dallas, so you could probably expect him to get the load, the big amount of the load. He's a power back, good power back. I expect him to be one of my sleepers.
Okay, who you got for a bust, a running back?
Bust. Carlos Hyde. Carlos Hyde and Ryan Matthews.
Oh, you got Ryan Matthews as a bust?
Yes.
Oh, I see. I have him as a sleeper.
Oh.
Yeah, I actually think if he stays healthy, I think he'll have a good season here. I really do.
Now, before you go, continue.
I feel a debate coming. All right, so let's go ahead. Okay.
I would agree with that. If he could stay healthy, he could definitely be that back. But history shows that he can't stay healthy.
You're going to say he gets hurt. Okay.
Hurt.
Okay.
And not to mention fumble issues. Can he hold on to the
football?
football?
That's a good point. And I mean, the health I can't debate, but the fumbling issue. Who else are they going to put in?
Yeah, I mean, you can't. Darren Sproles, he's what 33 now. You can't put him in.
No,
not
every
at
down.
least not every down. Kevin Barner.
Kenyon Barner.
Yeah, Kenyon Barner. Thank you.
Yeah.
But my other bust
okay.
Is Carlos Hyde, only because of the system. And when I think of a power back and a downhill runner, I think of DeMarco Murray last year with the Eagles under Chip Kelly.
Well, he definitely has a power aspect to his game, but I think he's a little more nimble than DeMarco. So I actually think he could have a good season. My bust, I've got Matt Forte and Frank Gore as my busts. Matt Forte, a lot of people love him in the Jets. I just have him because he's over 30 years old, and I know I have Rashad Jennings as a value at running back, but I mentioned he doesn't have as much mileage on him as Matt Forte does. Plus, Forte was injured last year, and the stats have been going down the last 3 years on a downward trend. It's just that 30-year-old mark with running backs. Yeah, it's kind of a golden rule of mine. If they have a lot of mileage on them at 30, I don't draft them. And Frank Gore, the same reason. I mean, he's 33 years old. I know he put up 960 rushing yards last year, but dude, at some point, he's got to slow down. And the Colts have already said they're going to lighten his load. So those are my busts at running back. Wide receiver. I'll lead it off. My big sleeper wide receiver is going to be Dante Moncrief going out to Indianapolis with the Colts. It's his third year in the league, so that's the mark where wide receivers typically break out. You have a healthy Andrew Luck this year, and he's actually considered to be the better all-around receiver compared to T.Y. Hilton. So even in the down season last year for the Colts, Moncrief put up over 950 yards. And the third year mark, I just have a hunch. I think Dante Moncrief is going to have a good season for the Colts.
For me, I've got Marcus Wheaton.
That's a good one.
Martavius Bryant suspended.
That's
I expect him to fill in.
Great call.
For the Steelers and be that number one guy. Another guy I have, Dorial Green-Beckham. With the lack of talent on this team, and I know we talked about this on Tuesday, but I actually after the podcast, I actually read the splits, and he had an increase in receptions and yardage as in November and December as opposed to September and October.
Okay.
So that's just something to keep in mind as you're going through your draft.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. And the only other guy I have, sort of a sleeper, I think he's more a bounce back. I think it's going to be Randall Cobb. I think Randall Cobb, is going to have a really, really good season with Jordy Nelson back and healthy. The pressure is no longer going to be on him to be the number one wide receiver. Defense has now shifted their attention back to Jordy Nelson. And I think that's going to open up a lot of things underneath for Randall Cobb again. And I think you will see him have a better season than season similar to what he put up when Nelson was healthy. My busts, I think I already hit on these. Allen Robinson and Doug Baldwin. I don't see them duplicating those numbers that they did last year.
Deshaun Jackson. I think that with his injury, those types of injuries can be tough to bounce back from.
Talking about the hammy?
Yeah.
Well, he's had hammy issues, yeah.
And then the other one I have is Demetrius Thomas. You got Mark Sanchez.
Oh, Demaryius Thomas.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, okay.
You got Mark Sanchez as your quarterback. Paxton being the backup. I don't know. Will he put up decent numbers? I guess, but with Mark Sanchez as your quarterback, there are a lot of question marks.
It's not great for him. It's not. Yeah. It's not ideal.
Yeah.
I actually think he might have a decent season. I think he might do a little bit better than people are thinking. I think Sanchez is a good fit out there in Denver, but we'll see. You are talking about butt fumble, so. Yes. We will have to see. All right. Tight ends. I do have one for tight end that I really, really love. Sorry.
Okay.
And it's a sleeper. The bust, I don't really see any busts. But the sleeper I love is actually going to go out to New Orleans. Kobe Fleener coming over from free agency from the New Orleans Saints. Since 2011, the worst season the Saints tight end has had is 74 receptions, 825 yards, and 6 touchdowns. And that was 34-year-old Benjamin Watson last year, and he did that on 110 targets. You insert Kobe Fleener, who is just about the same size as Jimmy Graham, actually ran a faster 40-yard dash time than Jimmy Graham. If he can stay on the field, and no health problems again, but if Kobe Fleener stays on the field, I think he's going to have a huge season in New Orleans. I can even see him cracking the top 3 at the position if he stays healthy. I love Kobe Fleener in the 6th and 7th rounds.
I got nothing for tight ends.
Nothing for tight end. Okay,
Yeah.
You think everything's going to stay as is?
Yeah. The only thing, and I put him down anyway, Jimmy Graham, only because,
Tough injury to come back from,
Yeah.
dude. Torn patellar tendon. It's ended a lot of careers, but you still think he can?
No, I have him as a bust.
Oh, a bust. Oh, I'm sorry. My fault. Okay. You got him as a bust. Yeah, I agree with that. I think Jimmy Graham's pretty much done after that injury. All right, coming up here on the end. So we're going to move on now to our rookie standouts. I've got 2. Okay, I think you should target late in drafts. And this guy's going to be going late. You get him the 13th, 14th, 12th rounds of that area. I'm going out to the Bay Area. Oakland Raiders rookie running back DeAndre Washington. Okay. Now, Latavius Murray is the clear lead running back there. I'm not here to debate that. But he hasn't always been efficient with his carries. And I know Jack Del Rio has not, at times, they've been unhappy about that. And if this guy gets injured, meaning Murray, this guy DeAndre Washington, he's an all-purpose back. Okay, he's great in open space. He can make guys miss. He's great in the receiving game. His stats last year at Texas Tech, 1,877 yards from scrimmage and 16 touchdowns last year. This guy's dynamic. He's electric. If he can get on the field, see significant time, I think he has a great season. And the other guy I really like, Sterling Shepard out of Oklahoma, the New York Giants pick. He's in line to be the number 2 wide receiver behind Odell Beckham. I've been able to get him as my number 4 wide receiver in drafts, and I think he could even be he might even produce wide receiver number 2 numbers in that Ben McAdoo system. He's had a great training camp. All the reviews have been great. Last year in 13 games, nearly 1,300 receiving yards and 11 touchdowns in 13 games. So those are my rookie standouts.
No, I don't have any rookies.
Okay. Now, we didn't include Ezekiel Elliott because it's pretty obvious he's going to have a great season. So we went outside of that. All right, so we're going to move on now to our bold fantasy prediction for 2016. I'll lead it off. I was going to say Ezekiel Elliott finishes as the number 1 running back, but I thought that was kind of a cop-out because we all know he's going to be good, and it's not unforeseeable. I am going to say this. Carson Palmer does not finish inside the top 10 fantasy quarterbacks this season.
For me, I got the Eagles. I think they go from, near the last in defense to top 15 defense in the league.
Oh, wow. You went Homer.
Yes.
You went Homer there.
Yes, I did.
Okay. All right. Well, we're coming up on the end. So there you go. Carson Palmer is going to finish outside the top 10, and the Eagles would be, what was it, top 10?
15.
Top 15 fantasy defense. What kind of bold prediction is that? Top 15? You make it top 10 or top 5 or something.
I could,
man.
but I'm trying to be realistic here, Dave. Well, actually, that wouldn't be right because that's a bold prediction.
I'm glad you called on that. At least one of us did our part today. Maybe if you didn't sleep through that meeting, you would have had that. But anyway, we're coming up here on the end. One thing that we did do this year, we have both signed up for a Fantasy Football League. We were both in the same league. And we have a little friendly competition, a little Philly cheesesteak wager. Whoever finishes higher gets a cheesesteak courtesy of the other person. So that'll be good to see. Mike, I do actually prefer Gino's cheesesteaks as to Pat, just so you're aware,
Hey, if I beat you, it doesn't really matter now, does it?
Well, yeah, but come on. You're not going to beat me.
I have beaten you before, Dave.
This is true. I mean, lightning does strike. They say it doesn't strike twice, though, so you might be out of luck there. But in any event, we got to get going. We're at the 45-minute mark. It was a little bit longer show, we figured, because of the fantasy football. Catch us on Monday. when we will, either Monday or Tuesday next week, we'll send out the podcast for week 2 of the preseason. But, again, check us out on Facebook, on Twitter. Yes, we do have a Twitter page now. We're on YouTube. We're on SoundCloud.com. Just Google, search the Philly Pod with Dave and Mike. We'll come right up. Shout-outs really quick before we go. We want to go give some shout-outs to our followers on SoundCloud, Flowing for Days, Alicia Abrams, Cora Day. Hey, thank you for following us. If there's any input, anything you guys want to see, hey, leave us a comment. Again, anybody else, if there's anything you want to hear about, we're going to put it on. I know we heard some soul football, Mike was saying.
Yes.
Right? We got it on the Facebook page, so we're going to definitely touch on that as well. And we also do have whoever our YouTube subscriber is. We don't have your name. You got to make yourself public.
Yes.
Make yourself public. All right, our phantom YouTuber.
Yeah.
All right, make yourself public, and we can get you a shout out. All right. But other than that, it's time to sign off. I'm Dave.
I'm Mike.
We'll catch you guys next week for week 2 of Eagles preseason action.